Local Tico Brohe back again to do the second part of our Strider no-hit run. Weapons, we have Rested for Torpor, Golden Bardiches for Silence, and then we just have Heaven's Keys for Holy Damage, Dragon's Ire for Fire, and then we have Darkening Storm for Physical, as well as the Framae Blades. Armor is purely cosmetic. None of them give us stat boosts except for the Laurel Circlet on our head, and we chose it just for style once again. That gives us a couple magic points. Rings, Barbed Nails for Knockback and Stagger, Strider's Band for Splitter and Volley upgrades, and then Desiccation for avoiding Drenched. We leveled up 200 levels of Strider, so our stats are very balanced. Skills, Kisses, Splitter, Instant Reset, Volley, Fractured Art, Mighty Bend. Again, Volley and Splitter will be upgraded. Augments, we have Eminence for jump ability for the Splitter. Everything else is kind of a bit standard. Autonomy, Vehemence, Clout. We could have gotten rid of Vehemence and put on something else. I probably would have chosen Acuity for some magic damage, but it wasn't really necessary, so I might as well just stick with some physical. Again, this is part 2, so we're going to be getting started with the Rotwood Depository. And I can hear skeletons forming, so I know we got the ghost configuration. You'll see I'm going to run past them over here. The reason for that is this hallway gives me the best angle for me to dodge the ghosts when they dash, as well as this one usually will dash immediately over there, which makes it quite convenient. My lantern went out there, which is a little bit annoying, but not really troublesome. I don't really need to see anything. The one enemy that I do need to see is literally lit up red, so. But yeah, then this is why we use this room. We can dodge, and then we can see where it's coming in, and then we can just Splitter one-shot it. Now there's still going to be the 2 Silver Knights, so we'll take care of those next. Physical damage is what we'll use for them. We could use Holy. Holy's not bad, but like our magic stat just isn't nearly as good as our physical stat, and they are, you know, just about as weak to that as they are to, just as weak to physical as they would be to Holy, but our stat value is just so much higher on physical, so it doesn't really make sense for us to use the Holy Daggers, even with Splitter, when we could just do that. Now here we're going to try and get the Elder Ogre to spawn, so we're going to switch to the Rusted Daggers so that we can apply Torpor immediately. I want the Elder Ogre to spawn here because I know I have the Ghost configuration, so that means I'm going to have a living armor in the final room. I don't really want the Elder Ogre to spawn in the final room because it's going to be a touch annoying. So instead, we want to kill the Elder Ogre as early as possible. I'm very glad that we ended up getting the Elder Ogre here at the beginning, because it allows me to just kind of kill it, knock it out of the way. If we hadn't gotten it here at this time, I would have cleared all the way up to the final room and then backtracked to hopefully get it to spawn either in where it just did or in this next room, because in the next room, it can also spawn. But again, it usually will only spawn in this room if you backtrack. There are 2 snakes in this haystack, so I use Downpour Volley. I can usually shoot one with the bow, but for whatever reason I struggle to shoot the second one. There's going to be 3 Vile Eyes. I shoot that crate because it's going to block my vision on one of them sometimes. I use Mighty Bend because I know it's a one-shot, and I'm going to have to kill more than one. And I don't want a situation where I fail to kill more than one, or rather I fail to kill one because it's just too slow. Just as before, we want to make distance. I usually come up to this room because they'll usually dash right about there, and he does. As before, we can just one-shot it. There's still going to be 2 more ghosts. They're going to be accompanying the living armor up ahead. But they are not the Wraith variant. They are Spectres, so they're going to be a little weaker. So here I have to walk forward for the ghosts to spawn. That's why I walked into that hall as far as I did. Now that they're spawned, I want to walk back here because I want them to dash at me so that I can hit them with Splitter. I don't really need to hit them with Splitter. I could just kind of hit them with dagger abilities and it would kind of work just because these ones are so much weaker than the Wraiths. But Splitter's going to guarantee it. That hallway is actually a little bit scary because there's not a whole lot of room to dash. But we got it, so I'm quite pleased. Okay, here I'll switch back to physical daggers because we will have a living armor. Unfortunately, the arena that we fight the living armor in here is not very good. There's not a lot of room to maneuver in there, so I don't really want to try and hit him with Splitter, because hitting him with Splitter is going to be risky. So we're likely just going to use our bow, as many downpour volleys as we can get off, but on top of that we're going to, you know, just kind of work on him that way. Unfortunately, because we are trying to play it safe, and we aren't going to use Splitter here, just because, again, the arena is a little too small. I can't... If he moves in certain ways, and then I hit him with Splitter, and then I try and back up to avoid the full moon slash that might follow, sometimes I'm not going to have enough room in the next area, where he's standing in right now. So, if that happens, I just pretty much just get hit. And the run is over. I don't want that to happen, so we'll use the bow. Unfortunately, the bow is exceedingly slow. Like, holy moly. Very tedious. So, you'll see I switch to the daggers just in case I have a situation where I can rip off a Splitter, because it is extremely good. But again, it has some pretty considerable risk involved. If we had a larger arena, the risk is alleviated a considerable amount, because after using a Splitter, I can back up pretty far. Unfortunately, this arena is just really bad, because that room that he's in now, it's just not quite big enough to accomplish what we would like. And you can see we don't really do that much damage. We just got to a health bar down after his transition to only taking magic damage. There I didn't move forward because I could tell that he was still in combat with me because the music hadn't faded. Now the music is faded, so I know he's not in combat with me, and he'll reset. As long as they don't get too close, he won't notice me. And I'll be able to drop another volley on top of him. Volley does the best damage for me at this time, other than Splitter, of course. So I want to try and land as many volleys as possible, especially if he's unaware of me, because he's not going to block them as effectively. Now, if you're wondering, well, why don't you, like, lure him in here, and then when he turns around to walk out, why don't you hit him with a splitter? Because he's trying to leave, right? He's got his back to you, you can splitter him. Well, that's kind of true, and a lot of times that does work. The problem is sometimes when you hit him, he'll get wise and be like, you know what, I can hit you back, and then he'll do an instant full moon slash, or he will turn around as you start your splitter, block it, and then do like his shoulder bash move, which you can usually dodge out of, but it's close, it's scary. And then after that, you're down there with him. He might choose to follow up. There's not enough room to guarantee that I evade everything. So instead, we have to take this exceedingly painful route of slowly chipping away with Dragon's Ire. It's not the worst thing. It ain't great either, though. Yeah, see how much damage we do with Volley. It's way better than just shooting, and that's with him moving around and me missing a lot of the shots because he is moving around. I wish Fractured Art did good damage here. I don't even know if I could get a Fractured Art in this room simply because of the ceiling. I feel like I could, but I'm not 100% certain on that. But the reality is Fractured Art with Dragon's Ire doesn't really do a whole lot for us. You'd think because like the explosion and the innate fire plus the fire blow, and it hits multiple times, that it'd be okay. But it doesn't hit as nearly as many times as Hailstorm Volley does. And it doesn't apply the magic stat as many times either. Because it doesn't hit as many times. And its scaling is all with the physical. So it just doesn't really do anything for you. You do tiny, tiny damage. It'd be better just to shoot your bow regularly, I guess. It does apply a lot of stagger, however, so like, I suppose we could strategize. Let's use Fractured Art, we'll tank our damage a little bit to get the knockdown, and then I can splitter on him like twice as he stands up. And that might be worth it, but I don't know. Look at that damage. See what I'm saying? Volley's just very good if we get the opportunity to use it. So if I was smart, I would be switching to Rusted Daggers just in case we have Garm on the other side of this room. I believe we do not, but that would be the smart thing. I should also get my physical bow out so that we can deal with the enemies that might come. Specifically, Liches, because Liches can be in here and the physical damage is better against them. Here I am likely replying to something someone from chat said. I do stream these live over at twitch.tv/localticobrohe. A lot of questions people ask, a lot of answers, a lot of discussion, a lot of hype about the sequel. You guys should stop by, check it out. It's a lot of fun. And as I said, Liches. I have the wrong bow out, so I need to swap now. Use downpour volley is just as effective. or Hailstorm, I suppose, technically. We use Volley. Here you'll notice I get to one side of the room. I get to a side of the room before he starts casting, because I want his downpour to, I want his spell cast to not be in the center of the room to guarantee me having enough space. Next, we're gonna have Hellhounds. If you go to the right side of this like broken palisade section, you can actually drop a volley down on the Hellhounds without them noticing you. I fail here, so I only kill like 2 or 3 with the volley. Oh, maybe I only kill 1 with the volley. Interesting. Which means I have a much more tense situation I have to deal with in terms of dealing with these. Fortunately, we're able to evade quite effectively. But you can actually land a volley on all 4 of them, and they will die. Here we're going to have Leapworms. In the first one we talked about pathing away from critters. Here we path into them, even though we could completely avoid them by going on the balcony and splittering off. The reason we don't do that is because dealing with the next room from the balcony is very difficult. There are Hellhounds, there's a Strigoi, there are corrupted sorcerer pawns that will cast things like Maelstrom. We don't want any of that. We want to have this little single access point of this doorway. Now, if we had the other configuration, which has 4 sirens and 2 eliminators. I think it's 4 sirens. I might be wrong. But it's a couple sirens and eliminators. Or no, it's 3. It's 3 sirens and 2 eliminators. That's what it is. Then we would take the balcony route, and then there'd be spiders in the hallway, which we could have pathed away from by just using Splitter over the edge. However, we still would probably deal with the spiders first, because with that configuration, Garm can spawn. If I'm remembering correctly. I'm pretty sure I am. But with that configuration, Garm will spawn, and we don't want to skip the spiders, have Garm spawn, retreat through the spiders. So we'd kill them anyway. But, you know, the option would exist. My biggest concerns right now are the Hellhounds, obviously, which is why we kind of focused on them first. Next, I want to kill the casters. I want to kill the casters because they can do things like Maelstrom at the doorway, which is going to pull me. If I get pulled by the Maelstrom, even if it never like sucks me in all the way, but if it pulls me even a little bit, I'm going to count that as a hit. I haven't been counting how many corrupted pawns we have. There are 3 total. I don't know how many we've killed. I do not like hitting that guy. My rules for these guys is if they are still chained up, I don't touch them. I leave them be. If I accidentally break their chains, which probably happens half the time, then I'll kill them. It's not difficult to kill them. I guess we did kill all 3 sorcerers. It's not difficult to kill them, we just kind of do it the same way we do... Well, actually, you guys haven't seen that on YouTube. We basically stay in that hallway all the way back and we just use downpour volleys. Here, Leapworms, we'll shoot them. We'll shoot the first ones individually as they crop up. Just because it's hard to... I could use downpour volley, or Hailstorm rather, to hit them. The problem is aiming Hailstorm volley downstairs is very hard to get all of them. Now that we're on the flatland though, and that one's dead, we will use Hailstorm volley to kill the remaining 3. Because I can land that shot very easily. Using Hailstorm when you're in an elevated position is just very difficult, so we kind of avoid it. Bloodless Stockades, or Stockade, rather. Neither configuration is difficult, but we would prefer to have the Cyclops configuration because it's significantly faster. The reason for that is if we get the other configuration, we have living armor, and there's 2 living armor, and as before, we're going to play it very safe because we don't have very good areas to fight them in, and it takes a very long time. I prep a downpour just in case we have the lich, or sorry, the white, because I want to kill it immediately. Which we do. Now we have those 2 specters. I had to think of the right ghost term. We have the 2 specters. We could obviously use Splitter and kill them. The problem is, doing that, there's still a chance I get hit. Whereas, I can always just use Volley. And yes, it will take considerably longer, but it's exceedingly safe. I don't have to worry about anything. I just need to drop a downpour volley once they start coalescing again and hit them like 5 times or so. Maybe 6. I don't actually know. I don't count. Doesn't really matter to me. But if I do it this way, it's very safe. I run no risk of having to even dodge. And the problem with using dodge and then splitter is that if I dodge one way and then the second one dashes like at a slightly off beat from the first one, I might dodge into the second one and get hit. I can't avoid it really. It's not fun. We don't want that, so we just avoid it entirely. Here, there's 10 bats, so I'm gonna kill all 10. I have a video of the Ranger full no-hit run. Where I actually circled all of the bats as I shoot them to kind of showcase where all of them are. If you want to pull that video up, I think it's got a chapter called Bats because I thought people might be interested in it because it is kind of interesting, but it's very difficult to see without the circles. But again, there's 10. That's the last one. We can move along. Now, as I said before, we had ghosts, so I know we have living armor. Each living armor, there's 2 of them, are going to be accompanied by 2 vile eyes. So, as I pull the first one, the first set of vile eyes often spawn. Now, I'm using downpour volley over there. That is because if, for whatever reason, I am on the ground with a living armor and I need to back up and retreat, I have a safe area to do so where the leap worms aren't going to just get me immediately. As before, downpour volley, exceptionally good. I believe here we do manage to get off a couple splitters, but they're very rare, they're not common. I'm trying to make it so that multiple splitters. See, this is an example of shooting down with the volley, and we didn't even end up shooting it because, or we did shoot it, but it didn't end up landing because the room above us, we can only really use volley on the wings. But here, I'm trying to stay close because sometimes the living armor will try and hop up to where I am by taking the little step to its left, my right, and then hopping up to the next one. In this case, yeah, see how it hopped? Do that, because it's going to have to hop again, and I can get 2 splitters off. I'm going to keep doing that motion where I stand right at the lip of that ledge, because I want him to do that. If I remember correctly, he doesn't end up doing it again, so I don't really get the opportunity to take advantage of a big splitter like that. But that is basically the ideal pattern that I get, because that was 2 splitters I got off just then. If I get 2 splitters off again with the Holy Daggers, that's, you know, really good. It's like a health bar and a half, probably. That was a little bit scary. Unfortunately, the living armor got in the way of our third shot on this one, so that wasn't cool. But we managed to dodge. We managed to do it just fine. Now here, I have both Vile Eyes dead on that side, but there is a living armor off on the right. If I engage this one in melee, even like around where it is now, the other one on the right will notice me. So I don't often engage them melee unless at least one is dead. Unfortunately, these guys have a weird habit of moving off the weird sides and going to places where I won't see them. There he fell. Not necessarily the one that just happened, but the one in the waterway that we could see. If I was in a better position, I could splitter him. The problem is splittering there is very risky because he is on a downslope. And if I splitter with momentum, because I'm trying to catch up to him, if I splitter and accidentally drop a... if I splitter and accidentally drop in front of him, like I hop over his head, what ends up happening is he will block my hits and immediately do a shoulder bash, or a shield bash rather. Which usually, again, as I said before in the previous room, you can typically dodge just fine, but it is very close, it's very tense. It is somewhat risky. I don't want that. Now here I have both of them active. This one on the right will often get caught right there, walking into that lantern. And it is glorious because it gives us opportunities to actually land downpour volleys. That is a very consistent spot to get caught in for the one that's on the right. Similar to Garm jumping over the balconies like they did in the Garden of Ignominy, as well as the Vault of Defiled Truth in Part 1. They also do the same in the, oh, what was the name of the room? The Forgotten Hall, the last room we were in. If we had the configuration where Garm could spawn, and then they did, if we run to that balcony, the same spot, they'll do the same thing. They'll fall off. It's a little bit different though because there's more terrain in the room, and so a lot of times some of them will just get caught on terrain, and you can just use downpour volleys to hit them anyway, which is obviously ideal. If I was faster and I knew that I would have broken the armor there, I would have just quickly ripped off 2 downpours. There, I didn't realize I was going to do enough damage to rip off his armor. So I hesitated, and so I only landed like a couple arrows with the second one. Had I done it immediately, we would have been probably close to only 4 health bars left instead of 4 1/3. But it's, you know, it's not a critical issue. You might be wondering why I have so much oil in my inventory. That's because we had a lot of runs of Bitterblack Isle that we did before getting the Elite Lantern. The Elite Lantern is required. You have to have the Elite Lantern to kill the bats that were in this area. The regular lantern doesn't cast enough light without probably the Illumination Augment, which no one uses. From Magic Archer. But you just can't see the bats before they fly at you. And the Elite Lantern has a larger radius of light that it casts, as well as takes longer before it runs out of oil. And so when we were doing our regular lantern, I needed more oil, so we were picking up all of the oil pickups that you saw me pick up during this run. And the fact of the matter is I don't actually need that many. Over the course of the run, I believe I only need to pick up 2 oil to maintain 2 oil in my inventory so that I can guarantee that I have 2 oil for the next run every single time. I end up picking like 4 up every single run, and then we use a couple. So like, I believe I had 5 oil in my inventory or something like that at this stage because I just picked up the last one, and I had used one earlier. But yeah, there's no special extra oil usage. It's just kind of wasted inventory. That being said, we are still extra light, I want to say. Very light. I don't remember what the word is now that I think it is. Very. I think it's very. Very light. We're still very light. We don't have a bunch of stuff in our inventory, really. We made a decent sized character, so she is able to have a fairly decent carry capacity. I think she looks good for it too. But yeah, carrying that extra oil, my point is, it's not doing anything for us, but it's also not hindering us in any way. So we're good. This is where things kind of are annoying, because I have both of them are not super low, but they're both like fairly low, right? But I don't get to do a whole lot of damage to either of them at any given time. And then when I do get to deal damage to them, it's very minuscule, the windows are small, and then they leave me, so I have to try and get them back. This is why I didn't want this configuration. The other one, like I said, neither configuration is difficult. This is not a very difficult thing to do. It's just a very time-consuming. The patience, maintaining patience is the difficult step of this particular room. Because it's not fun. This is very boring. It's very tedious. And I expect, if you're still listening, I expect a lot of people that also watched probably skip to the next chapter once I got down here and started this process, because it is slow. Part of why I don't really run past these guys, well, obviously I don't run past enemies, period. But once I kill one, you don't see me run past it to get to the arena at the end to have a bigger and open space to kill it. And the reason for that is because this configuration can still have an Elder Ogre spawn. If an Elder Ogre spawns while I'm also dealing with the living armor, that's going to make things even more dangerous than fighting the living armor already is. So we don't do that. I don't remember having the living armor spawn, or sorry, the Elder Ogre spawn this time. But obviously there's no way for me to know that at this stage. So both of them should be really close to the same amount of health, actually. Which is thoroughly annoying. But you know, there's nothing I can do about it. Fortunately, as I said before, the one on the right there gets caught on that lantern very frequently. So we'll have opportunities to use downpour volley on him periodically. That will be effective. Like the last one we did about like half a health bar, right? Ish, maybe closer to like 40% of a health bar, which is good. You know, it's good as far as I'm concerned. The problem is after that we have to like let him completely reset, get caught again, do XYZ. It's not intriguing. That's another example of where I could have run up and splittered, but the likelihood that I accidentally jump over him with my momentum of the splitter and he ends up blocking and then using the shield bash is very high. So it looks juicy when that happens, but realistically it's just a trap. It's just a trap. We had that happen a number of times when we were doing either our practice runs or some of our actual runs. This was attempt number 30. This successful attempt was attempt number 30, which is actually pretty high. For comparison, on our other vocations, the number of runs were usually around 20. Often less, in fact, but around 20-ish. Ranger was like the first one that was actually close to 30, and even then, I'm not sure if we reached 30. I think we were at like 28. Now, that number's probably a little bit inflated because I usually do critical run, so I don't do the Midnight Helix Ward of the Regret and Pilgrim's Gauntlet in the very first run that I do. So I get to learn the rest of the rooms very well. And those rooms are actually some of the harder rooms for us to deal with on this run. Most of our attempts, like I said, we're on attempt 30. I would say 25 out of 30 attempts probably were lost before we made it to Gazer. Because the Midnight Helix is very easy to lose to. The Ward of Regret also is pretty easy to get hit with if we get the ghosts. As well as if we get like other certain interactions. Here I'm shooting the closer one because the far one is stuck. So I know it's not going to move until I hit it. This one, I wasn't sure if I shot the far one and got nice damage off. I wasn't sure if it would also turn or not. I know I can always hit that far one later, so I'll just hit this one while it's got the opportunity. But anyway, because I just went straight to doing this full run, it probably skewed the number of attempts higher, right? Because if I complete a critical path run first, which is a little bit easier, I can probably complete that in under 30 attempts, especially considering probably a good 20 of our runs ended in one of those 3 rooms. And then, maybe not quite 20, probably at least half though, ended in one of those 3 rooms. And then, I'd also have more experience with the remaining rooms, the normal rooms that you would hit on the critical path. So it kind of lowers the number of attempts that way, whereas we didn't have those extra practice. However, this run was still much more difficult than I thought it would be. I thought this would be a very easy run coming off of the Ranger run. But the things that were challenging were Strigoi. Ghosts are always challenging because they can just dash at you through a wall and like you get hit and it's very upsetting. They weren't nearly as frustrating as it was for Ranger, because for Ranger we had to just hit them multiple times, which is rough. But it was, you know, it had its challenges. And I think that without you know, without being too worried about it, too frustrated. Strigoi really were a huge issue. Frost dragons were a big issue. That one took me a little bit of time to decide. I need to just go for the fastest knockdown I can get, and then once it's knocked down, blow it up. Because with Ranger, that's not what we did. With Ranger, we tried to stand away from it, but in front of it, and then shoot it with tenfolds in the heart. We don't have an ability that lands, that shoots that way, so that wasn't an option for us as Strider. Like, sure, I could have put 5-fold on, but it does considerably less damage than 10. There I use Mighty Bend because I know if I actually knock these guys with Mighty Bend enough times, they will fall over, and I can use a splitter while they're on the ground before they stand up. That's not very realistic at the moment because I would have to hit them with Mighty Bend more than once to knock them over, first of all. Second of all, we don't even have Barbed Nails equipped at this time. I have the Ring of Desiccation on. So, like, I'm not going to be doing that much stagger, realistically. So it's kind of a waste. But it's not the worst thing in the world, because for the most part, I'm channeling the Mighty Bend while they are facing me with their shield, so I can't even shoot them with a regular arrow anyway, so it's not a big deal. One is dead. There are still Vile Eyes on the right-hand side, so I don't want to go that way. Without killing them, obviously. And an Elder Ogre can still spawn. Here, I'm going to switch back to Darkening Storm. It's just a little better damage for these Vile Eyes. You'll see I'll use Mighty Bend here. Oh, never mind. I'm going to run because that living armor started coming my way. Okay, the Vile Eyes stopped moving towards me, so I'm confident I can switch back to Dragon's Ire. Because the next enemy that is likely to come to me is probably going to be the living armor. And there he is. And unfortunately, not much really changes about its behavior when one of them's dead. I still am going to stay really close to the edge in the hopes that he hops up. You see how he blocked the last one? There's a chance that when he blocks that last hit, he does the shield bash right after. And if he does, I have to dodge roll immediately. It's scary. It works out there. And it works out most of the time. That was a bit close. But it doesn't always. And because of that, I don't really want to do that particularly often. There, my patience meter ran out, is really what it is. I ran out of patience. And because I ran out of patience, I went for the splitter because I want this to be done. I don't know how long we've been in this room, but it's damn near close to 20 minutes. This is by far the slowest room of the entire run. And it's just because of the 2 living armor. We'll have 3 living armor in the Fallen City. And even with 3 living armor, because of the configuration of the Fallen City, we get to kill them way easier than these. We get to use downpour volleys, but we get to constantly churn them out. So they will die way faster, even though there's another one, as well as other enemies. Because the rest of the enemies in this area did not take very long, right? Here I'm trying to see if I can land it, but because he's in a downslope, it's really hard to actually land a volley on something that's down below you on the terrain. And of course, the moment I lined it up, he started moving. We still got a good amount of damage in, though. Maybe 15%. Which isn't ideal, but it's way better than what we've been hitting for with most of our attacks. So I am okay with it. I don't know why I keep pulling out Volley in this area. We've demonstrated multiple times that it does not land. It lands in the room above us. But I don't know. I'm a slow learner, I guess. It's probably less that I'm a slow learner and more that I have muscle memory of wanting to use downpour volley on these guys, so I press the button. You see I'm hesitant to move forward. That's again because I don't want the Elder Ogre to spawn. About here's where it would spawn. It looks like it hasn't. I don't remember whether I backtrack all the way or whether I actually try and fight it over there. I think I backtrack and I get another downpour volley off because it doesn't know where I am. Yeah, see, it stopped walking. I say see, here. It stopped walking. So we can get another volley off. Yeah, look at that. That was like a third of a health bar. Once again, we've demonstrated multiple times that it's going to hit the ceiling. I don't know why. It's so close. Goodness. At this point, there's no real reason to try and fight it in a normal manner because it is so low. We should just shoot it, and we do, obviously. But, what an exhausting room. That took about 20 minutes. Probably a little bit more. I would have to look at the timestamps. These rooms are going to be separated by chapters. So you'll be able to see at a glance how much larger this one is versus the others. Next room, Sparyard of Scant Mercy. This is a run killer, this room. In the first video, I talked about how the first third is by far the hardest part of the run, because there's only a couple rooms after that that are actually scary. This is the only, like, other room that's, like, really a killer. I don't need the Ring of Desiccation, so we're going to go back to Barbed Nails. Best configuration for this room is double Fire Drake. We have at least one Frost, and we have one of each. This is actually kind of the worst configuration. But if we are lucky, we can use the room to our advantage. When you have two Fire Drakes, they both start walking towards you over here. When you have one Fire, one Frost, or when you have Frost Drakes, the farther Frost Drake won't move close to you. So, if you have a situation like this where we're going to kill an enemy from ranged, we can kind of stand over here, and that second Frost Drake won't quite notice us. So long as we don't hop on the railing of the balcony. I say railing, it's not really a railing. As long as we don't hop up on the ledge of the balcony, and we kind of try and keep ourselves from going down the stairs too far either. We really don't want to be casting anything too close to the other side of the balcony as well. To my left, I mean. But if we can rip off enough fracture darts here to keep him knocked down and me hitting the heart, I have to deal enough damage to kill it, obviously. The concern is as I keep hitting him and he keeps falling to the ground, he is going to periodically shift further and further to my left. I don't really want that to happen because as he falls further and further to the left, he gets further and further away from, or he gets closer and closer to where the other dragon will notice us. I don't really want that. Like you see, he's a little further left than he has been already. It's because when he falls, he falls typically straight down, although he can kind of shift in the air. But when he falls over, he rolls onto the side. So it'll be a little bit to the left. And then when he stands up, he doesn't roll back. He kind of rotates his body. Oops. I bonked my desk. So if you heard that, my bad. But yeah, I'm going to stay in this area. Unfortunately, now is kind of where we run into trouble. The issue is the dragon's landed up here. I need to make sure this dragon dies very quickly. Unfortunately, we just broke the horn, sorry. So he's going to charge at us. Or sorry, the reason that's a problem isn't because of the charge, but it's a problem because he stands up immediately when you break something. I don't want that. I want him to not be standing up. I just need to shoot the heart one time, and we managed to do it. It's scary because I can't get too close to his mouth or his... I just put on the golden Bardiches and then the rusted daggers. I meant to put on golden Bardiches and rusted bow. Now that he's dead, you can hear that the Frostworm has moved over to us, so we can move over here. I'm going to wait and let my stamina recover. I need a good amount of stamina to make sure that I can kill the Frost Drake, or the Frostworm, as quickly as possible. That was a very good fire Drake, even with the little mishap at the end. But anyway, if I get, as I was saying before, if I get too close to the mouth or the heart, I will take a little tick of burn damage, and that counts as a hit. We obviously don't want that in a no-hit run. So, because he landed up top, I basically needed to make sure that he died very quickly. Now, we landed a good number of fracture darts while he was on the ground, because we did enough damage before he shifted too far left. So we had a good run of it. If we had missed more of those fracture darts, when he landed up there, he would have been further away from dying, and it would have been much, much more difficult to do it without aggroing the Frostworm at the same time, and without getting hit. Now, had I noticed that I had used the wrong ability before, I would have, you know, been happy, but I didn't. It's not Torpor because I have Darkening Storm equipped. I'm thinking I have Rusted Bow equipped, which is just not the case. So I'm like, man, he's got to be close to Torpor, right? Why isn't he Torporing? And then I'm like, oh. Unfortunately, I just also didn't notice that that I don't have the golden Bardiches equipped either. So after I Torpor him, the next step is to silence, and that I'm not going to accomplish either. So here I do that. I don't have the right daggers equipped, so I'm like, oh goodness. So I'm just blowing through stamina that I don't have, trying to apply status effects because I'm dumb. Now that we've got him torpored and silenced, we switch off of the Strider band so that we can equip the second Bark Nails, because I want to knock him down just like before. I want to knock him down as quickly as possible with Fracture Darts. Here is a little bit scary. We're going to line of sight it with this column because he's going to roar at us. I don't want to get hit by it. His roar will skill stifle us. Now, if he's charging at us like this, I don't want that at all. So we're going to run up here. And the fact that this is happening means I've messed up, which is not surprising, right? Like, this is actually a very difficult fight to do consistently well. The reason for that is you don't have like in the first video we had a situation where we could apply Torpor and Silence to the dragon at the very beginning, and we were where we wanted to be at the end of that. In this case, we're at a wrong elevation, so even if I had the right setup upon entering combat with this one, I still would be at the kind of wrong elevation for dealing with him. He is no longer silenced, so we need to apply that again. But I'm not thinking about that, apparently, so we'll just do this, I guess. But anyway, even if I had the right setup, because I have to get down to the ground floor with him, he gets more time to like start casting at me, which means he'll be more ready to charge at me before I've dealt enough damage or stagger and things like that. So this is just a harder room to fight a Frostworm in. Here I should switch to my physical daggers as well as my ring. Yep, okay. The reason for that is what I'm gonna try and do is knock him down, and then I'm gonna try and kill him with Splitter before he can get up, because this is by far the best damage time I have. And we succeed. This was the first time that we actually managed to do both Frost and Fire and in the same configuration without dying, so I was quite thrilled because it was consistently awful. Here I don't see an eliminator over there. That means I have the living armor configuration. This is the easier configuration. I say easier, it's the less annoying configuration. This configuration only has one dragon. It's a stronger dragon than the two dragons, but it's only one dragon, and it's the easiest to kill of all three variants. So it's we only have one dragon. In addition to that, we have only 3 eliminators versus 8 with the other configuration. And the additional spawn we can get with this configuration is death, whereas the other one has a cursed dragon. Because there are so many enemies in the other one, the likelihood that the cursed dragon is pretty much guaranteed. The likelihood that the cursed dragon spawns is pretty much guaranteed at some point. So generally, with the other configuration, I have to kill eliminators, I have to kill 2 dragons, then I have to kill a cursed dragon, then I have to still kill 3 living armor at the end of it. This way, I only have 3 living armor here, and 1 dragon to deal with, and 3 eliminators. I'm actually doing this the wrong way. As I said, most of our runs ended before we even got to Gazer. So I don't have that much practice with this room, so I kind of forgot the angle at which I do it until I shot that one and went, wait a minute, that's not how I do this. So I'm gonna go deal with the dragon first, because that's the actual strategy that I use. And if you can line this up nicely, you can basically chain stagger this dragon in place if you hit the heart with Hailstorm volleys, and you just rip them off one after another. It's tricky though. It's hard to aim, and I don't do a good job of it, so that's not what ends up happening. If you do manage to do it, you actually do a great amount of damage. It's very good. The problem is, again, I'm missing the heart. I'm hitting like the wings, the head, whatever. Like you can see the heart's not even opened yet. So it's, you know, it's a bit of a problem. Fortunately, this is still, again, the easiest dragon to deal with. We do good damage even if we have missed the heart on every shot though, so. Like if this was a Fire Drake and I had missed these shots, we'd maybe have a single health bar down at this point, but we've gotten, or rather we had gotten 3 and change down at that stage. Here I try and be cheeky and throw this over, and it just doesn't work. Would have been fun, though. That's actually exactly where I want him to fall. I want him to fall down that courtyard every time. It's safer for me. Because he's not gonna, he can't charge me if he stands up. He can't charge me. I don't have to worry about anything really happening. Now that the dragon's dead, I can now turn my attention back to the living armor. And there isn't a specific sequence we have to use. We could kill this one first if we wanted to. I don't recall if we do. I think we don't. Just because shooting this one's, the angles are awkward. But we do have to kill the one behind us before we kill the very first one in the room. Yeah, again, shooting at an elevation below where you are standing becomes very difficult with downpour volley because it works sort of like line of sight. You can only aim at things using line of sight. Unless they're very far away, then you can look up, but you have to aim at things using line of sight, but because the terrain features are there, they kind of block your line of sight, and it just becomes extremely difficult to shoot down with downpour volley, or hailstorm volley in this case. Unless, again, things are at a good distance from you. Like this. So here's what I was saying, is I have to kill this one before I can kill the very first one that we tried to shoot at the very entrance of the room. The reason for that is because we're going to use a position close to this one to kill the second one that we're going to kill. And if this one's still alive when we move to that position, he'll come and move towards us. He'll become aggressive. We'll do less damage because we'll lose preemption. Our hits will get blocked by his shield. There's a whole slew of reasons why we don't want it that way. And this is what I was talking about when I was saying that we can actually kill these guys quite quickly. And that's why this room configuration is not nearly, despite having an additional living armor, it's not nearly as slow as the other one. Now here, I was going to jump across that roof, but we actually lost a run at one point because we failed that jump. So I'm like, I'm gonna walk around and take this platform, just because if I fail the jump, I land on that platform, and I don't take fall damage. And then I'm thinking, wait a minute, I could probably reach this guy from here. Let's try. And lo and behold, we do. So I'm like, okay. I think this is the first time we used this strategy. I believe we took our angles from a different positioning in the previous runs. So I was actually quite pleased I found this angle. But I will say that oftentimes that one actually notices us while we're fighting the dragon and will move just a little bit. So we actually usually have a slightly different positioning for where he is standing as well. So, because usually I attack it off of the rooftops like I did earlier where I was trying to, and I couldn't find a target on it. So now I actually have a strategy for if he doesn't move, which is obviously very good. With that one down, we just have the very first one in the room. And like I said before, we're gonna move, backtrack a little closer to where we need to be. Here, I forget which way I'm going, and I start walking the wrong way. And then I go, wait a minute. That's not right. Let me go back. But yeah, we need to be higher. So I need to jump across to the other side, but I need to be higher to do it. I'm trying not to use very much stamina here. The reason for that is I need a lot of downpour volleys to kill this guy. Even if I can rip him off quickly, it's still a good number of volleys. So while we can hit this guy, unfortunately our aim isn't as... the location we can place our volley isn't as good as with the other two that we killed. So it is a slower fight. Still better than the ones we fought in the sewers by a huge margin, but it is a notably slower fight. And in a moment I'll move to a slightly better position. But still, it's considerably slower than the previous ones we just fought. Yeah, see how low our damage is in comparison to the other ones that we were fighting? It's like, I'm out of stamina now, and I'm like, huh, what can I do? So, typically, if you are in a place where the living armor cannot reach you, it will, stand put, or stay put like it is right now. So typically, the place I'm standing would not be a good place to be because he'll move like he just did. So that's why I wasn't shooting from there. However, up here is a fine spot. Now, obviously I can't really aim at him from there, so what we'll do is we'll move to a different location and do the same thing. This would be a better location. Unfortunately, this position is also getting kind of... It's neutering our damage a little bit. And that's because the building is there. He's also aware of us, so he's blocking some of our arrows. But some of our arrows are also getting captured by that building. If he was a little further away from the building, we'd be a little happier. Here, I'm just choosing to shoot him because I don't really have great stamina. If I'm going to wait for stamina to come back, I might as well be dealing some damage. And in this case, we've actually dealt a decent amount of damage while letting our stamina rebuild. Especially since we still have 3 eliminators in the room, possibly death if death spawns. I don't believe it does this time, but the possibility still exists. I am aware, you know, I don't want to have no stamina if death spawns because we need to do splitters to deal with them. And there we go. All 3 living armor dead. And less time than it took us to kill any single living armor in any of the sewer locations that we fought. Meaning the Rotwood Depository or the Stockades. Now, if we had the ghost configuration of the Ward of Regret and we had the living armor there, that one is quick. That one is very similar to these 3, where we can just kind of do downpour volleys, or rather hailstorm volleys, and kill them at our leisure. But this one, the other 3 that we fought earlier, very slow. And while I said earlier that the configurations aren't difficult for having living armor, they're just slower, I will say that they are harder than the other configuration, just because the patience, the level of vigilance you need to have during the entire room is significantly higher than with the other configurations. Just because, you know, you just need to be paying attention the whole time. Like, that other room was like 20 minutes plus, probably really close to 20 minutes, but it's probably a little bit more than 20 minutes. And if I kind of slacked at that, unless I slacked like in a safe spot, there's like nothing I could really do. The problem is if I slack in the safe spot, it makes the room even longer. So I still have to have about 20 minutes of vigilance. It's just 20 minutes of vigilance over a period of like 30 minutes, which is you know, not better. These runs actually get very tiring. Fortunately, I enjoy them. But like at the end of the run, I'm like usually exhausted, especially a longer successful run. If a run fails early, it's almost relieving. Like it's frustrating, but it's almost relieving because if you have a run fail late in the game, like you're paying attention for a very long time. It's tiring, and then you fail and you're like, oh my god. So I'm actually getting really nervous when I was doing this live. I was actually starting to get really nervous because while Daimon is not hard, there are a couple things that can happen with Daimon that can end our run. A common one is that he does his arm swing and I stagger him at the same time, and I forget that the arm swing in phase 2 still goes through while he's staggered, and so like I just don't dodge it, or I dodge it late because I forget and then I dodge. That probably hit us on like maybe 3 different runs we got hit by that. That being said, on all of those runs we had lost already, but you know, we were trying to make a PV or something, and we would get caught there. If we get hit by the soul vortex, not even just sucked in, but we start getting stamina drained, I count that as a hit. And those are, depending on when he starts his soul vortex, those can be very tight positioning timings where I have to move quickly. So, in fact, in this fight, we almost get caught by soul vortex for his first phase because he's standing right where he needs to be when he decides to start his pilgrimage in the middle of the room, and so he doesn't really have that moment where he walks away from us for a long time to get to that spot. He just starts doing it, and I am caught off guard. Because I already have him torpored with Splitter, I'm gonna switch to Barbed Nails. I want the staggers. I want the staggers so that I can prevent him from getting his casts off. So double Barbed Nails is the ideal play. Once he's missing 2.5 health bars, he can do Soul Vortex. Once he's missing 3 health bars, he will do Soul Vortex. And this is what I was talking about being fairly close. He was standing right where he wanted to when he was like, I can do Soul Vortex. Usually he'll make a pilgrimage to the middle. In this case, obviously, he was in the middle already, so he just starts doing it. If I hadn't torpored him, I would have gotten hit by the stamina loss. There, I just let him do the drain. I'm not worried about the drain at all, the Soul Vortex. I'm not worried about it. I can kill him with Fractured Arts after that. No big deal. If I shoot him with like a Mighty Bend and stagger him out of it, he might get pushed further away from me, which is just inconvenient. And 2, if I just wait, I get some stamina back. I'm gonna need stamina for phase 2 anyway, so I'm okay with it. There, I'm just making sure I have the right rings. I don't need Splitter at all. I don't need Downpour Volley really at all. I'm going to Fracture Dart the whole second phase. So I wanted to make sure I had the double Barbed Nails because that's going to enable me to get the Stagger Chain off. Which we do get a minor Stagger Chain, but I messed it up by accidentally hitting a wing. And so we actually drop the chain and we have to actually do a Soul Vortex. But you could actually Stagger Chain him in phase 2 the entire time to death. So long as you have the stamina to do it, you can just Stagger Chain him all the way down. So here, I'm hoping he does Ingle. Yep, you can just sidestep that. You don't have to dodge roll. In fact, I wouldn't advise dodge rolling, because dodge rolling will move you a fixed distance, and if you're too close, you'll actually just move into another one. This is the best move he can give me. The reason for that is this move is, it's kind of like the Eliminator's charge move. It's the easiest move to get a stagger off. So here, this is the stagger chain. You can just keep this up indefinitely with the high stagger ability. Fractured Art is a high stagger ability. The thing about it is I have to be a little bit more patient. There, I accidentally shot the wing because I was impatient. And because of that, I dropped the chain. If I had hesitated for like a quarter second later than that, I would have been able to shoot over the wing and hit him and stagger him again. And, you know, keep it up. it becomes difficult because he does like rotate as he's getting hit, and so like the angle and the timing you need to wait to release changes like with every single shot. So that time I just wasn't paying enough attention. Because I knew he was below 3 health bars, I knew he would Soul Vortex, which is why I just walked away and went over there. I know with Double Barbed Nails and Fractured Darts, so long as I'm landing these, I will stagger him out, which we do. So here, we're gonna just kill him. I think I expect one to hit better than it does right here, so I like kind of like stop and put my bow away and then realize I missed, which is awkward. But there it is. Not a bad Daimon fight. We did have some that were like super clean though. Like we had some where we would kill him before he did Soul Vortex in the first one, and then in the second one we would get a stagger chain off and hold it indefinitely until he died before he did his first Soul Vortex as well. So like that was kind of a sloppy fight in regards to the rest of the runs that we had where we fought Daimon. However, it's still, you know, pretty good. Like the only moves that were even remotely close to doing anything to us were the Soul Vortexes. And even then, like, not that bad. But I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them down below. I love this game. I love answering questions for you guys, so feel free to reach out. Be sure to check out my stream. I stream every weekday over at twitch.tv/localticobrohe, spelled the same way. Link will be down below as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I look forward to making the next one. Take care, everybody. Cheers.